grant application. And as we go through today, we would encourage you to go ahead and open the chat pane. And I know some of you might not be as familiar in WebEx with where that is. All of the buttons you'll be using today are probably located near the bottom of your screen. So go ahead and rest your mouse over some of the options until you find that chat pane. We're going to be sending helpful links to you. We're going to upload a document here after a while. That's a handy resource for you to have, so make sure you have that chat pane open. My name is Angie Taylor. I'm the Community Development Coordinator for the Nebraska Department of Economic Development's CDBG team. And we help potential applicants and those implementing CDBG activities across the state achieve success. So just so you kind of have some idea, this is a partial abbreviated vision of our Department of Economic Development. We have several different divisions. We happen to fall underneath the Housing and Community Development Division, and as luck has it, our entire team is based out of the Lincoln Fallbrook office. So at this time, we hope you have your chat window open. We're going to post a question for you to interact, because part of our purpose for being here today is to allow you to get to know one another across the state and see things about each other that maybe help you connect and learn and make meaningful connections. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And throughout the session, be sure to interact in that chat window. So you'll click that show chat button. It's located in the very lower right corner of your WebEx window, and it looks like a speech bubble. So we'll post questions for there for you to respond to. And if we don't respond to your question during the presentation, we'll be sure to either answer it at the end. We hope we have time for Q&A, or we'll follow up with you directly afterwards. And if you have an anonymous question to submit, you're welcome to send that to me directly. Again, I'm Angie Taylor. So we just wanted to give you just a very brief overview, because this is something new. We haven't done this kind of a call before. So we're here for kind of a couple of reasons. The first is just to share important information with you. And we want to allow our stakeholders statewide a chance to connect with one another. And we feel that the need for this session arose out of our experience receiving and reviewing grant applications. And we want the grant application process to be as effective, efficient, and easy as possible. So we're going to be sharing ideas today that help you manage pre-application planning and tasks. We're also going to provide that downloadable PDF that can assist you with your grant planning efforts with communities. And I see a lot of great responses coming in. Thank you everyone for introducing yourselves in chat as we go through. We're going to be doing our best to keep an eye on that. So our stated format, which we might have to be a little flexible with, we've never done this before, but our goal is to present you with about 30 minutes of content. And then the final 10 minutes, we hope to have time for questions and answers, as well as sharing tips and tricks. So if you have anything in mind, make sure you have those kind of on the tip of your tongue. So with that, we are going to go ahead and introduce ourselves in chat. So if our team hasn't done that yet, we'll go ahead and give them a moment to introduce themselves. And then these are kind of the three main components that are on your screen about what we will be doing sorry about this, I don't know why my screen is popping up on the wrong screen. There are three main steps to helping a community do their pre-application work. So we broke it down into three big picture items. The first one is step one, to define the community's big picture needs. And we're going to have one of our teammates speak to that. Then step two is to summarize the need and then identify from that need the solution options that could remedy that need. And then step three is to go on and kind of drill down even further to identify the resources that are needed for each option and then conduct a gap analysis. So that's kind of the broad level overview that we're going to be talking about today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole Bartles. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Nicole, thank you.
Hello, yeah, my name is Nicole Bartles and I'm the CDBG program manager. And so I'm going to be talking about the first step in applying for a federal grant award. Should you be looking at the first thing you should actually be doing is looking at all the grant award opportunities that are out there. So making sure that you have a well thought out plan leads to a more successful project. And one of that is completed on time, within budget, and delivers the benefits that your community needs. And so when you think about that, one thing you want to do is think about, does the community have a comprehensive plan? Does the community have maybe a Section 504 self-assessment? Does the community have any needs assessment that they've completed, any community surveys, any of the 1 to 5 year program plans? And then there might be other planning documents that the community has utilized to kind of see what the needs of the community are. So definitely taking a look at those and identifying maybe what your community needs and what you want to do for a project. And so then what you want to do is start to build your strategy using those fundamental documents. And they're very key information before you ever begin a CDBG or any other type of grant planning opportunity. I also want to bring attention to, for CDBG, it is very important to include public participation. And so making sure that you are bringing in all of your community members to the table to see what needs your community wants. But why is project readiness important? It's because currently CDBG projects must be completed within 30 months from the start of the notice of award to the end date. And we've previously we've been pretty flexible with issuing time extensions with this, but there is still a new proposed CDBG rule to narrow that performance window. And so there is a area in the scoring application that talks about project readiness. And so that's where you really want to identify how you are going to meet those deadlines of that particular project. And the main goal of your pre-application planning is to address that project and mission, the critical needs of who is going to benefit. What do we want to do? When are we going to want to do this? What area do we want to talk about? Why, how, and how much? Begin by assessing that big picture community needs, identifying solutions, options, and then drill down into the nuts and bolts of budgeting and implementation. You'll also want to think about contractor availability, how you might leverage maybe phasing of a project. And in some cases, you might need to conduct an income survey. As CDBG, one of our requirements is that the project has to meet a national objective. And a lot of that is driven from HUD issues a low and moderate income survey database, the LMISD, which can be used to meet the primary national objective of the program. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom to talk about the next item.
Good morning, I'm Tom Stevens. And so when you're working with this toolkit, just remember this guidance is optional, but it's really trying to help you do a better job before the application and planning your activities. While it is not required to approach pre-planning like this, there's some pretty crucial parts to a successful grant that you want to be aware of, okay? And so if you're unsure, first is always reach out to the program rep for examples and or possible situations that could be what are called choice limiting actions. A choice limiting action is usually activities that are undertaken prior to the environmental review clearance. And if so, it could jeopardize being, say, an expense being eligible for grant money. So you may not be reimbursed if you undertake an activity prior to the environmental review clearance. So these are called choice limiting actions. They could be as simple as if you're creating jobs, you're hiring, or you're out there starting to move dirt, pile dirt up, cutting down a tree, or writing contracts for professional services or contractors prior to environmental clearance. So we want to avoid those kind of those choice limiting actions and understand why the environmental review has to be cleared first, okay? And again, those are serious problems if that happens. It could jeopardize the eligibility of the grant. And also avoid what's this potential conflict of interest is where an engineering firm, for instance, is used to write the grant application. They would be ineligible to administer the same grant if an award was made. And now I'll turn it back over to Gina.
All right. Good morning again. I'm Gina Dose, and we're going to talk about step one, kind of defining what we need. So this is where it all begins. We get together and discussing the needs of the community. Typically, we want the top three. Obviously, your team can do more. I would say this is not something you do at a regular council meeting. This is something you do on the side. You're kind of writing down the needs of the community. And you're noticing we're writing down the needs of the community. We're not saying DED has a grant and we might be able to apply for it. We have to start with a need-based. So when you determine those top three needs, you determine why is it important that we address these? Why did they rise to the top of our list? And then who is going to benefit from that? And meaning who are going to be on your team, who's going to be on your team to decide how to resolve that problem? And you obviously have people that come to mind immediately to be on your team, but I would challenge you to put on people on your team that you would not typically put on your team. You need those outside influences and those conversations to make that happen. So for each of those top three priorities, or perhaps more, you want to very clearly lay out what's the need, why it's important to address, and who are the people that are going to be part of the team to that success.
Yep, step two. So this is where you're going to want to summarize your need and identify those solutions and options. So as you can see on the table provided, this is a step where the core team pulls together the beneficiary and stakeholders identified in step one. So everyone, we want them to come together to contribute to identify what you want to do. Do you want to choose option A? Do you want to just, for this particular example, do you just want to fix those potholes? Do you want to look at option B, or do you want to just, fix it with a solution that lasts 10 to 15 years? Or do you want to go to option 3 and look at something that might be more expensive, but, completely regutting the entire street and starting over, including curbs, gutters, and storm sewers that maybe potentially then last a lot longer. So it's identifying those solutions to those needs.
Thank you, Nicole. Well stated.
All right. And then from that, we are going to move on to table 3. Again, this is just, a guide that we would encourage you to utilize just to kind of see those needs of your state. So now that you've identified those needs and options for solving them, it's time to find out what projects you might have local support for. What projects need additional outside resources? Start outlining what those resources are. Will you need monetary contributions? Do you need labor? Will you need technical support? Will there have to be project management? Will this involve an extensive construction season? Kind of look at what the impacts of the particular project will have. The planning and feasibility should be considered as early in the process as possible. If you are not already, begin to see how the environmental review process has an impact on that planning activity, especially when you're looking at making significant changes to the current use of existing structure or the area. If you need to convert, for example, if you need to convert a vacant lot into a public park, maybe more involved than the property was previously used. Or if it had like a business on it and the business needs to be demolished, all that stuff needs to be taken into account. Look at what is available locally, then start looking at filling in the gaps of the activities that will exhaust your local resources. And also consider how those resources will be acquired. CDBG funding may not be the best resource for your community priority. So, make sure that you look at different funding sources, because again, CDBG might not be the best option. And that should not discourage you. Think about how to pair the most appropriate resource that may help you move your general funds from a project that should be well suited for. So now we're going to talk about how can we implement a project that will address the problem? How do we identify key contributors needed to achieve this project's success? Again, who are these people and how will you be selecting them? And how do you know how do you know they are able to successfully manage the project management responsibilities? Do you need to seek out a grant writer? Do you need to seek out grant management? And what options would you implement to fix these underlying problems? Use your community and beneficiary input to help focus on what your actions that will best meet your needs. A lot of times with CDBG projects, there is federal awards, and so we do have to follow the federal regulations for procurement. So if you are seeking certain funds, we've got to keep that in mind. Also, when you think of a project with layering funds, you also kind of need to look at what are the other federal regulations that might be involved with those particular agencies. Next, we want to look at where is this project going to occur? Provide a description, or kind of think of the project description. And those that maybe have had a CDBG project, we really want to narrow down with the best practice of making sure that you use street names, you use landmarks, such as well-known community anchors like stores, gas stations, and describe an imaginary boundary of that specific location of where that work will be completed. Again, making sure you reference your community surveys, your plans that maybe you have in place, what your needs are. That's definitely going to drive to where this project where this project description or where you're going to focus on. The other funding opportunities that best fits this project, CDBG, can't accomplish all of the needs of the community. CDBG, we do have some stipulations with our national objective that has to be met. So there might be other types of funding opportunities out there for you. So definitely seek out if you have a project or you're looking for particular funding. So your DED field staff, and I don't know if you know, but as DED, we do have field staff that could help guide you and maybe on some other funding opportunities that are available. So please reach out to those. Our field staff directory is listed on on DED's website. How much? Again, we kind of talked about this, but how much is this project going to cost? And what would be for CDBG? We do have a match percentage that has to be met. So then you have to think about who is going to provide that match, and where is the funding gap that may be identified. So there might be, you might be wanting to completely redo your street, but there is the project you identified is quite larger than maybe you have for your general fund. So where is that remaining funds going to come that will then help you be successful in your project? For example, if the community wishes to seek a levy increase with taxpayers, you might have to take this to a vote prior to applying for the grant. Or do you need to seek out a community loan from a bank? And within the application, we do require that you have proof from the bank that you have that loan in place. And then finally, we're going to talk about when. When will this project conclude? Again, CDBG, we do have a 30-month agreement that we seek out for the project. So you got to make sure that you define those realistic timelines for each project milestone and the overall project. This is not a general concept, but this should be, identifying month to month, quarter by quarter, what are your achievable goals? How are you going to stay on track to achieve this project? For a best case scenario, if it's a construction project, you can submit your special conditions and obtain environmental clearance from DED. And if you can receive those swiftly, then you can, immediately start working on your project and work on those construction parts of that. And I think, Angie, I don't know if there's any other slides that are associated with that, but again, yeah, I would recommend looking at the PDF that we provided on the website. Again, this is just a guide to kind of help guide you with thinking of project readiness and to have a project that is ready to go and then just see whether or not CDBG would be a good fit or if there's other DED funding opportunities.
Nicole, thank you so much. That was a very quick overview. If you haven't been watching the chat pane, just to point out, we posted the link there. The table that you saw shared on screen and the examples are filled in, so you can go back and look at it later. It's posted on that CDBG main page on the DED website, and again, that link has been added in chat for you. So we are stopping our screen share of the content, and now we're going to move to the question and answer portion of today's session. And so Nicole, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right.
The only
Andy-
question I've seen so far, in case it helps, I know there's a lot to
Yeah, I was gonna say,
look at.
yeah.
Thank you everyone for your answers and participation there. There was one question about whether CDBG funds require compliance with Davis-Bacon, and we did answer that yes, CDBG funds do require compliance with that, and I didn't know if there's anything else you might like to add to that.
Yes, so Davis-Bacon is triggered when construction is over $2,000, and so all of CDBG projects do trigger Davis-Bacon as a requirement within the construction. So yes.
Excellent, thank you so much. So now we will move to the portion of the if anybody else has a question that you might like to ask in live time rather than trying to type it out all into chat, we'll kind of be taking questions two different ways. You're welcome to put them in chat. Conversely, the other option is for you to use the raise hand feature. So here in WebEx, if you look along the bottom of your screen where all those buttons are, there's one that has like a little hand raised like this. And if you would like us to call on you so that you can unmute and ask the question of our team, you're more than welcome to do so. And we'll be watching for you that way as well. So let's see, who's up first for other questions related to today's topic? Quiet group today. All right, I don't see any raised hands. I don't see questions coming in by chat. I do happen to notice that Jenny Mason has joined us. Jenny, welcome. She is the head of our CDBG team and other teams as well. And so I just wondered, did you want a moment to say anything on your end, Jenny?
Good morning. Sorry, I don't know if my mute came off right away or not, but good morning. Appreciate the presentation and discussion going on in the chat today. I don't have anything to add, no, but if there's any additional questions here coming in or other thoughts, happy to discuss.
Right, I don't see any questions posed for you, so thank you, Jenny, for joining us today. We're so glad you're here. We'll go ahead and move on to the portion of our presentation where we share tips and tricks and allow you to share some of your best ideas. And I have to admit in advance that I was recently made privileged to hear a great tip shared by one of our members from across the state in Kearney, Nebraska. David, are you with us today?
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much for being here and for being brave to speak up. I have pulled up AmpliFund because I thought it would be really helpful if you were willing to share your tip with everyone.
Okay, one of the tips that I learned working with multiple communities on applications is if you go up to the right where you see your name and you click on there, you can go down to where it says Applicant Portal. And based on the community that you're working in, it will bring up the various applications. And then from there, you can go ahead and pick the application you're working on and continue filling out the application online. So I don't know if that's helpful to people, but it was helpful for assisting grant writing on multiple communities instead of.
David, thank you so much. I understand that your workaround before had always been to go back to an email and kind of access it kind of a roundabout way. So this is just a little
Yes.
bit more efficient way to work in AmpliFund. And we all, I'm sure, appreciate tips and tricks about AmpliFund. So David, thank you so much. I want to give you confetti and all kinds of things for being willing to share that with us publicly and in the group. So thank you so much. All right, I am sure there are folks out there, especially from our development districts, others who might have ideas with tips to share or questions, again, about anything that we shared in our presentation today. What else do we have here? We have a lot of CDBG brain power on the call today, and I'm certain that somebody has either a great question or a great tip to share. Please don't be shy. We want to give you guys all a chance to be elevated and have a chance to kind of share general community knowledge. That's why we wanted to bring everyone together today. So as I looked at the list, we have everybody from the east side and Papillion all the way out to Crofton, Nebraska. My goodness. North to Fremont. This is an impressive group here, and trying to figure out who the farthest south might be. I see Kearney, shout out. Dakota City, ooh, far northeast corner. So please, anybody else? Any other questions or tips that you would like to share? Thank you, James Owens, welcome. Thank you for unmuting. We'll go ahead and call on you. Yeah. And if you have a camera, we'd love to see you, but if not, that's totally fine. Go right ahead, James.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can just, as far as tips go, I would say, like, no one needs to feel like they need to stumble around in the dark in these processes, because, in my experience, reaching out to y'all at the department, Angie, Nicole, Gina, and Tom, are all very receptive to having conversations and providing extra help, and just providing any extra guidance as part of this process. So that's always been very helpful.
James, thank you. Your badge of chocolate chip cookies will have to come in the mail. Thank you for saying nice things.
That's all I was hoping for. Yes, thank you
for that, right? No, but actually,
I'll just team on to what James had just said. Please reach out to us if you're having any issues whatsoever. It's exactly why we have our jobs at Department of Economic Development, is to serve the people who are administering grants. I would also encourage you, as you're thinking about an application, to have a conversation with a program rep, because we want to ensure that you're on the right track. I can only imagine how many hours go into an application before I see it, before our team sees it. So it would behoove you, or be a great idea, to make sure you're on the right path. And we can be of help to you. Please utilize the resources you have. And again, I'll throw out development districts who are experts in this work. Again, very customer focused. So I'm going to please put them on your team as well.
That's an excellent point, Gina. And I don't know that our team took the time to introduce ourselves, but just to reiterate, as far as who program reps go, again, I'm Angie Taylor, and I work with the planning grants, the PP ones. Tom, would you be willing to go next? We'll just go down the line, and just for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with CDBG, it kind of gives you a face and a name and a program to go with.
Yes, I'm Tom Stevens again, and I work with the economic development projects, which could include infrastructure that benefits a business that creates jobs, or it could just be an applicant city or county or village that the sub-recipient becomes a business, and then they create jobs. Go ahead.
I'm Gina. I handle downtown revitalization. Also speak to, at the end of this call, we'll probably speak about the next call coming up, which will be Application guidelines will be the first week in June. I invite you to look forward to that when we reveal or tell you about the applications that will be coming out or available on July 1st. So I will encourage you to watch for that communication. And again, please reach out with questions. We want to help you be successful.
And I'm Nicole Bartles. And I oversee the tourism development opportunity. And so if you have questions regarding any of those types of awards, I would be your point of contact for those.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So a question that popped up in chat if you're not watching was, will the slides be available today? We won't be sharing the slides, but the recording from today's session will be posted in the next little while, within, let's say, the next few days. And then the handout with the tables that were referenced, it's already posted for you. It's on the CDBG webpage. I believe Nicole was kind enough to put a link in chat to go out there, or you can just go to the DED website and navigate to the CDBG team, and the handout is posted in one of the blue blocks that has to do with the session and group recording. So again, it's an optional document. Just to reiterate, this is not something that you would ever need to remit to DED, but it is a great tool to use in your pre-planning work. So, you know, what are all the ducks you have to get in a row before you even come to see if a grant might be a good fit for the project and needs that you have in your community. So let's see other questions or other ideas. Again, please use that raise hand feature along the bottom row. James and David, thank you both for being brave. Anyone else want to pop up and offer anything else to the group? We know you guys have great ideas and great tips. What else can we feature on the call today? Michelle Coolidge, thank you for this. Thank you for that nice compliment in chat. We appreciate that. We're glad that you found today's session helpful. So we're going to go ahead, and I don't see any other questions. We'll get wrapped up for today. So just to kind of put some little blips on your radar, coming up the first week of June, the CDBG team, on a date to be determined, will be holding our application guidelines webinar. So last year we had a set of criteria for each of the programs. How are those going to change? What do you need to know in order to be able to apply for one of these types of grants that we've been talking about this morning? All of that will begin in June, because then July 1st, the application window opens for 2025 for all of those grant windows, funding opportunities. So the guide that we were referencing today is already posted out on the CDB main page. It says posted soon, but we have an awesome teammate who got that uploaded for us. So it's already posted out on the website. And then for the future sessions, you are welcome to register for those now. The registration links are live, and we encourage you to go ahead and sign up for them while you're thinking about it. The first one will be coming in May, on May 8th, also a Thursday. And that session is titled Submit a Great Grant, Tips for Applying, Scoring, and then it's an overview of the award process. So what happens behind the scenes? What tips can we share with you for putting together a great application? And then what does that process look like once you turn it into DED, to kind of demystify how we do the scoring and threshold criteria, those kinds of things. And then the July 1st session, if you are someone, or you know someone on your team, or you have a contact in the field, anyone who helps file the semi-annual progress status reports, those are the PSRs, and I do a lot with that. So if you work with me a lot, this probably applies to you. Please join us for that July session. Again, it will be recorded if you're unable to make it that day. I know it's a holiday vacation week with the 4th, but please join us, because we are going to be making a big change to how the PSRs are returned to DED. And we're going to share some important information with you on that date about how that will change looking in AmpliFund, and how you'll interact to submit it to us, and how we'll be doing corrections, that kind of thing. So please, July 1st, if you do PSRs, plan to be there. All right, one last call for any other items before we wrap up. We've done a great job today, everyone. 10:37. We are, give yourselves a round of applause here. That was a lot of information very quickly. So first and foremost, just remember that your program rep, all of us here on the team, we are here to serve you and your communities and your constituents. So don't be afraid to reach out anytime. If you're not already on the DED mailing list, grab your phone, take a picture of the QR code, jump out to our listserv so that you can sign up to be part of the communications that we send out to stakeholders. We invite you to do that. All of our contact information is posted herein. Anything else from our team? Anybody else want to say anything in conclusion? No? All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead. We'll stop the recording. I will stay on in case there are any